5/7 is the greatest and 2/7 is the smallest. Now this is when it gets a little bit trickier, because you'll notice here that our denominator, our bottom number, has changed. But let me explain why it can still be quite simple. So Jack eats 1/2 of a cake. Hardeep eats 1/4 of the same cake. Who eats the most? Well, if you look at the two numbers here, and it might help to think about this in terms of cake as well, we can't look at straight away up here because look, they've not both been cut into quarters. So they are different fractions, and you can see that here that they are different fractions. This shape has been cut into 4 parts and this shape has only been cut into 2. But our numerators are the same. That means we only have one of the pieces. So in this instance, our cake has been cut into 2 pieces and we have got one of them. We've got 1 out of 2 pieces. This cake over here, however, has been cut into 4 pieces. It's the same size cake, but this one's been cut into 4 pieces in total, and we've only got one of those pieces. Now, each person has only got one slice. They've only got one part each, but who's got the bigger part? If your numerators are the same, if your top number is the same, if the amount of parts you're holding in your hand is the same, then the smaller your denominator, the greater your fraction, because the less pieces you're sharing your cake with, the less your cake has been cut into. If we look at another one quickly, if you had 1/10 and 1/3, which one's bigger? Well, if we break it down, we know that both people have 1 out of 10 slices or 1 out of 3 slices. Now, if that is the same chocolate bar, for example, if we imagine it to be a chocolate bar, so I've got 2 Galaxy bars in my hand. They're both 2 of the same size Galaxy bar. This Galaxy bar I've had to break into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This Galaxy bar I've had to break into 10 equal pieces. However, the same Galaxy bar, it's the same size, I've only had to break this one into 3 pieces. I've only broken it into 3 pieces. Now, each person had 1 of the parts. So can you see that the less parts I've had to break my fraction into, the less equal parts I have, the greater one part is. Because here I've got 10 parts that I have to take one out of, but here I've only got 3 parts that I need to take 1 out of. So we can also use our numerators as a comparison, because if they're the same, we know we've only got 1 piece. 1 piece out of 2 pieces is much bigger than 1 piece out of 10 pieces. Think about it as sharing it between 2 people or sharing it between 10 people. You're going to get a lot more the less people you share it between, the less parts you have to cut the whole into. So let's look at this one. Ruby eats 1/4 of a chocolate bar. Omar eats 1/3 of the same size bar. Who eats the least? Well, we've got 1/4 here and 1/3. Well, this chocolate bar has had to be shared into 4 pieces. And the same chocolate bar over here has only had to be shared, into 3 pieces. So our piece, when it's been cut into 3, is bigger than our piece when it's been cut into 4. The whole has been cut into less pieces, which makes each piece bigger. So as a result, we know that Omar has more than Ruby and Ruby has less than Omar because Omar's part was bigger. So who eats the least? Well, Ruby eats the least. So I want you to pause the video and have a go at completing this one, and I will go through the answers. So below are two rectangles of the same size. Again, that's really important. They are the same size. So which fraction is greater? Well, this has been broken into 6 equal pieces, but this one has had to be broken into 8 pieces. So if you've only got one part, of which bar have you got a smaller piece? Well, I know that 1/8 is going to be smaller than 1/6 because this one has been broken into 6 parts and this has been broken into 8. It's been broken into more pieces. So which fraction is greater? Well, I know that 1/6 is greater than 1/8. Which fraction is smaller? 1/8 is smaller than 1/6. Look at these and arrange them in order, beginning with the smallest. Well, this cake's been cut into 7 pieces. This cake's been cut into 3 pieces. This cake's been cut into 6 pieces. And this cake has been cut into 2 pieces. So the smaller number of pieces you cut your cake into, the bigger piece you're going to get. So I know that this must be the biggest because it's been cut into less pieces. So 1/7 must be the smallest because this cake's been cut into 7 pieces and you've only got one of those pieces. Then next, we've got a 3, a 6 and a 2. Well, I know this one comes next because that cake has been cut into 6 pieces and you've only got one of them. Then which one's bigger out of these two? Well, we know that 1/2 is going to be the greatest because it's only been cut into 2 pieces. So 1/3 comes just before. So smallest to biggest. This has been cut into 7. This has only been cut into 2, so you get a bigger piece. If you haven't had a go already, please pause the video and have a go. Arrange the fractions in order, beginning with the greatest. So which fraction has been cut into less pieces? Which fraction, if you pick up one piece of cake, because you're only having one piece of cake, which one has been cut into a bigger piece? Well, I know that 1/5 is the greatest because remember, the less pieces you've cut your cake into, the bigger piece of cake you're going to get. So the next one is 1/7. Then you've got 1/9. And lastly, the smallest is 1/12 because that poor piece of cake has been shared with 12 people instead of 5 people. Then now we're getting there where we're getting more and more and more. So all of our denominators are the same. So think about this one. This one's switched. I want you to look really carefully at these two and think about what you're doing. So with this one, all of the pieces of cake have been cut into all of this. If we imagine that's 1, 2, 3, 4 cakes. This cake has been cut into 10 pieces. This cake has been cut into 10 pieces. This cake has been cut into 10 pieces. And this cake has been cut into 10 pieces. So each cake has been cut into 10 pieces. Of this one, you get all 10 pieces. This one, you get 7 out of your 10 pieces. This one, you get 2 out of your 10 pieces. And this one, you get 6 out of your 10 pieces. So because the denominators are the same, we can look at how many pieces of the same cake or the same pie or the same amount you would get. Which one's the smallest? Well, I only get 2 out of 10 slices, so that one's the smallest. Then 10 slices, that's more than 7. 7, that's more than, so 6 is next. So then it's 6/10. Then 7/10. And lastly, the greatest one is 10/10 because that's one whole, that's the whole thing. Now this one is the opposite because our denominators are all different, but we've got equal numerators. So let's have a look. Now here, this cake's been cut into 10 pieces. This cake has been cut into 8 pieces. This cake has been cut into 11 pieces. And this cake has been cut into 5 pieces. Now I've only got one of each. So this cake I've got 1 piece. This cake I've got 1 piece. This cake I've got 1 piece. And this cake I've got 1 piece. But my cake's been cut into different amounts each time. So if we think back to the bigger your denominator, the more pieces your cake has been cut into. Well, the more pieces it gets, the more people you have to share your cake with, the smaller cake piece you get. So who's got the smallest piece of cake? Well, sharing with 10 people would give you the smallest piece. Then, sorry, sharing with 11 people, I didn't spot that one there. Sharing with 11 people would give you your smallest piece of cake, so 1/11 is less. Then it would be 1/10. That's why it's always worth crossing your fraction out, so you don't get confused. Then 1/8, and then 1/5. Because if you're only going to get one piece of cake, it's much better to share it with 5 people than share it with 10 people, because you get a bigger piece. Now this time we're starting with the greatest fraction. So these have all got the same denominator, so all of our cakes are the same size and have been cut into the same amount of pieces. So which one do I get the most pieces? Well, 11 out of the 12 pieces gives me the most. Then it would be 8 out of the 12 pieces. Then it would be 5 out of the 12 pieces. And then it would be 3 out of the 12 pieces. Then this time our cakes have all been cut differently, but we've only got one piece each. So which one would we rather have? One piece of a cake that's been cut into 3, or one piece of a cake that's been cut into 12? Well, one piece of cake cut into 3 is the biggest, then one piece of cake cut into 4, then one that has been cut into 9, and then one that has been cut into 12. Now, if you're struggling with this, on the school website there is a web link that takes you to a virtual fraction builder. So you can tell it how many parts you want to put in, and then you can colour those parts in. So that might help you if you're struggling to see it visually. But remember, the answers again are also uploaded to the website. So I hope you're okay with that, and we will go over more of it tomorrow. See you soon.